going to be kind of close, but you can see here into northern Kentucky beginning Saturday morning and then going throughout the day here. So let's go ahead and let's play that forward in time. There's Louisville. Now, look what happens here, Mike. As we get into later in the day on Saturday and toward the evening, they're right on the rain-snow line here. So they start off with significant snow, but they very likely are going to change over to rain. It's going to be a real mess there. To the north is where it's going to stay cold enough for the snowfall. And then as we continue eastward here, that's my big concern here. That pink area is all going to be icing because what's happening is cold air is getting locked in here from those winds coming out of the high in the northeast. Washington, Baltimore are going to see snow, but to the south of that, you could get that dangerous mix of cold air and warm air aloft, which produces the freezing rain. Again, a long-lasting event here into D.C. right in through Sunday evening, and then the system is gradually going to move eastward here. But it's not out of the question some of these areas could still have some snow as that upper low holds back even into Monday morning. And again, there's your total snowfall out of the system here, Mike. The heaviest, again, in Virginia, but D.C. could easily see 3 to 5 inches of snow out of this.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. A lot more to come on Weather Underground for you. A barefoot boy under the age of 1 wandering the streets below freezing. The story behind his rescue, and it's going to warm your heart. Well, this Sunday, you don't want to miss a brand new episode of Highway Through Hell. We've seen before, Mission Towing gets into some major jams, right? But this next mission might be too much for them.
A major accident has the highway shut down.
Hey, Semi's collided.
The hay train completely submarined the tractor and the trailer unit and obliterated it.
The first truck lost control. Coming to a stop sideways across the highway. Moments later, another semi punches through, coming to a rest on top of the first wreck.
Unfriggin' real.
The major cleanup is in the hands of Mission Towing's Dylan Greenwood. The first piece of Dylan's puzzle is the Lowboy B train. The first piece of the wreck is towed away. But the next step won't be as easy.
You're going to see it, an all-new episode of Highway Through Hell this Sunday, 8, 7 Central, right here on the Weather Channel. Now, if the boys were out there in, say, California, say this weekend, they'd run into some issues. We're in and out of some rain for you here in San Francisco. We'll have some issues up into the mountains as well. Saturday, that's the day I like, about 58 degrees with some sun and clouds for you in San Francisco. But it stays relatively stormy for us here across the west with kind of atmospheric rivers just rolling on in, particularly targeting Northern California. The last 7 days, we've got nailed here with some really heavy rain. Guess what? Big trough digging in here. Next low comes in with the surface fronts. Another one after that. So it's a parade of storms here and almost an endless supply of moisture, unfortunately. So what plays out for us here? Tons of rain for us along the coastline, Northern California through Southern California, okay? There could be some issues in the burn scars as well. Then we go into Sunday. Another round rolls in, all right? Loaded with moisture here, and now we get some pretty healthy snows up into the mountains as well. The burn scars, as we mentioned, there will be issues here. Heavy rain falling, especially over, say, the campfire burn scar here. 5 to 8 inches is possible. Mud flows, debris flows, flash flooding here. Then down through Southern California, a couple of inches over those fires as well. So a lot of different areas will be worried about the possibility of extreme flooding. Feet of snow also anticipated to come our way through the Sierra Nevada. Take you up to Mammoth here. We're skiing right now, and we're loving it. But if you notice the trails there, they've been worked over, haven't they? They'll have to get out there and groom them. Can we put some fresh powder down on that? Absolutely, Tom Nissel.
Yeah, and one of my favorite places to look, this is just down the road from Mammoth, right? Squaw Valley. You can see the lake right there.
Lake Tahoe looks beautiful.
But
Definitely
they're piling
does.
up the snowpack here. But you know what's interesting, Mike? We talk about snow and how much snow they get in the Sierra.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing when you see the annual snowfall here. So let's go from north to south. At Mount
Okay.
Shasta, 6,800 feet, 300 inches of snow a year.
It's a ton.
As you go further south in the Sierra, you go higher in elevation. So now North Star, 8,600, 350 inches of snow a year. And down at Mammoth, at 11,000 feet, 400 inches of snow a year.
So it's kind of, you just look at it, you think your southern resorts
Right.
wouldn't have as much, but elevation is the key factor
Right.
here.
So the fact is they get a lot of snow there. But, up into this point, we've got about 4 to 5 feet of average snowfall across the Sierra right now. But if you look at where they should be, they're only running about 2/3 of normal right now.
Yeah.
So what's going to be coming in this next week is a tremendous amount of snow across the area.
Sure.
In fact, we're forecasting as much as 3 to 4, 4 to 5 feet as we go from north to south again across the area. So it's going to go a long way to really begin to build that snowpack up across places like Mammoth.
Tom, that seems like an extreme amount of snow. 4 to 5 feet in the forecast over the course of a week. That's an incredible amount.
It's a lot, but when you go back to 2016-17, just a couple of years ago at Mammoth, they started out in December. They were getting their snow through the month. They had January, Mike. They picked up 20 feet of snow in 1 month, followed by, I didn't do the math here, but another 180 inches of snowfall, about 15 feet of snow the next month. So they can get into these situations with these atmospheric rivers that can produce tremendous snowfall.
They can cause danger, but man, they can help us so much for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, this really went a long way in solving a lot of the drought problems they had there and refilling the reservoirs as we got into the spring and summer of that year.
Any problems you see potential here for avalanche danger when we have successive rounds that are going to roll in?
Absolutely, one slab on top of the other with these kind of conditions, and it is going to build up the threat once again for avalanches across the area. And we've talked about this. There's already been deaths this year. We get anywhere from 1 to 3 dozen deaths a year from avalanches. So this is going to be critical. It's great news, but if you're going to go backcountry skiing in particular, have that transponder on you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ski alone, and check the forecast out before you go.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. All right, stick around, folks. A lot more to come here on Weather Underground. We'll be right back, and we're answering your questions about Winter Storm Gia. A former teacher turned bus driver in Milwaukee jumps into action when she sees a baby running across an overpass. Watch as the situation unfolds. All right, Irina, way to go. Well done. By the way, this is the 9th lost or missing child found by Milwaukee bus drivers in recent years. Truly astounding, but boy, her actions there really paid off. Her keen eyes, when you see something like that that just looks out of place, and I'm sure she's thinking, wait a second, no mom, no dad, no caregiver anywhere.
Yep.
I got to do something.
That is
Temperatures were freezing.
My definition of a guardian angel,
Yeah,
right?
That was really terrific. All right, Tom's with us again. We're going to update you on Winter Storm Gia. We've got the newly named storm just happened last hour, Tom. Reason being, we've got a lot of population now about to get some pretty heavy snow.
Including Metro St. Louis. So over 4 million people under warnings now, Mike, and this is a storm that is going to move from west to east across the southern U.S. To the north of that is where we see the snow.
Right.
So let's take a look at where we have our warnings in effect right now. The dark blue area are the warnings. These are advisories for a little less impactful snow, and watches now out in this area here, including Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Those may very well be upgraded to warnings as we get a little further along in time. They're going to get the snow a little later. The setup, the storm is going to move in this direction. The high pressure to the north brings in the cold air, and the snow develops to the north of the track of that low. Now, it's going to be a really quick cutoff as we get farther north on this storm here, and I'm going to show you that. The snow moves into St. Louis Friday evening. The cutoff right along here, and you'll see that as we move this along in time here. Chicago will get into light snow. Indianapolis probably going to get in the heavier snow, and Louisville will start as snow as we get into Saturday, possibly heavy to start off the day, but then it's likely going to warm up enough that you change over to rainfall. But because it's a west-east moving system, Mike, it's going to be a long duration snow event here, and so the snow totals are going to pile up pretty rapidly here. In fact, if you take a look here, there's a large swath of 5 to 8 inches of snow across the area, and some of the areas, Mike, just to the south of St. Louis could see some double-digit snowfall amounts.
There's a little bit of elevation down there through the Ozarks. Could that help a little bit?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the model, it's being reflected in the model forecast.
All right, very good, Tom. Hey, we wanted to know, what do you consider a big snowstorm? Because there's some good snow coming there for the Midwest, right? We gave you a few choices. It was 2 inches, 6 inches, a foot, or 2 feet. About 81% of you are in that half a foot to foot range is a big storm. All right, this one from Jennifer. I grew up in the Northeast. 24 plus is heavy snowfall. 3 feet extremely heavy. 4 feet getting to the point of epic. Wow, 4 feet is epic. I don't know if it matters where you are.
Anywhere.
4 feet is epic. Josh says this. Here in Oregon, it doesn't even need to actually snow. Just let the news talk about a snowstorm and schools will close down. For real. Oregon's not the only place,
That's
Josh.
it. It's all latitude dependent.
It really is,
yeah.
for sure. This next one coming to us from Paula. Depends on how strong the winds are. I live in Illinois. I've seen 2 inches become 2 feet with strong winds.
Yeah, the blowing and drifting across highways in particular can really cause that kind of problem.
And how about this one? Living in lake effect country, a foot is quite common. It takes more than that to shut us down.
Yep. They've got great snow clearing operations
really
in that
do.
part of the world, though, so can understand.
I feel like the older I've gotten, my threshold for what's a big snowstorm has gotten a lot lower.
I'm there with you.
So, being from Buffalo, what would you say?
I'd say a foot. Yeah,
Foot's
a foot
a
or
solid
more.
snow.
To me, it's a solid snow.
All right.
Yeah.
Next on Weather Underground, Winter Storm Gia is named a major weekend snowmaker threatening the Midwest with widespread snow. We're going to show you who is in that bullseye for upwards of a foot of fresh powder. Then Gia pushes east, bringing a snowy weekend to parts of the mid-Atlantic. We time out what could be the first significant snow of the season for cities like Washington, D.C. In icy conditions, another concern as the storm now pushes on through. We're going to break down what the threat for sleet and freezing rain is plunging as far south as the Carolinas. That's all next on Weather Underground. Thank you for staying with us tonight. This is Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis. Alex Wilson off this evening. Joined in the lab tonight by our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle. He'll be along here in just a second, but newly named Winter Storm Gia. This one likely to bring some heavy snow this weekend to places like St. Louis. Into D.C., we're going to get some snow, maybe our first big one of the year, or at least more than you've seen so far this year. There's a look at the map. Very colorful with rain across the south, heavy snow through the Midwest, through the Ohio Valley, and right into the Mid-Atlantic. It really could create dangerous travel conditions as well. So let's bring in our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle, for some details on this. You look at that map, Tom. Large bullseye there of snow, especially in Missouri and Illinois.
Yeah, the system is really powerful into that part of the world, and the snow hangs around for a fairly long period of time. We'll get into that for a second. And then, Mike, it kind of transitions into a different personality as it gets east. So here we go. 7th named winter storm of the season, Winter Storm Gia. We have now over 4 million people under winter storm warnings. That's the reason it has been named. And that includes Metro St. Louis here. Out to the east of here, winter storm watches now in effect. Those for Indianapolis into Cincinnati, those could be upgraded by the National Weather Service to warnings as we get a little further along in time here and the snow gets closer. There is the upper level flow right there, the water vapor showing the mid-level energy associated with this system here. And as we move this forward in time, we're going to see a setup here where this energy works its way toward the central part of the nation. And as it does so, it's a perfect setup to really develop this low pressure system here. So let's go ahead down to the surface. We're going to take a look at the same angle. There is the low, moisture coming north of that, cold air coming around this high, and they all come together right in this part of the world to produce significant snow. It's a west to east tracking system here. It does not go up the east coast like some of our nor'easters do, and for that reason, New England is going to stay snow-free in this event. Now, let's go ahead and set the stage. Cold air now down across a good part of the Midwest here. Temperatures much colder than they were a couple of days ago. And as we go forward in time, Friday evening here, the snow really breaks out across St. Louis, and it continues right in through Saturday afternoon. Look at that long swath of snow here with the west-east moving system. So a long period of snow across St. Louis. Take a look, and I'm going to break this down to timing now. So there is Friday evening, St. Louis. As we get into Saturday morning, Indianapolis, Louisville, Saturday morning as well. Then Louisville changes over to rain during the day. The northern edge of the snow gets all the way up to Chicago, but I think it's going to be pretty light there. You're probably looking at 1 to 2 inches on the northern edge of the system here. And again, you see how long this lasts. It continues right into Sunday morning before the system transfers out to the east here. And as it does so, it's going to leave a lot of snow in its wake. In fact, we're seeing as much as 5 to 8 inches of snow across a large west to east swath here. And we're even seeing as much as double-digit snow here, Mike, across areas just to the south of St. Louis.
It's a heck of a storm. Thank you. We're going to have more details throughout the show. But how about this question we just got in from a viewer? What's the current timing for Winter Storm Gia in Cincinnati for this weekend? Thank you very much for your question. Let's break it down for you in Cincinnati. Beginning Friday night with an overnight temperature that sits at 29. That's key because you're below freezing here, so everything sticks that falls, okay? Pre-treated roads will be good because even at 29, you got salt on the roads, you get the brine down. That's going to help tremendously. Going to Saturday, though, notice more snow comes in, but temperatures are above freezing. So through the day on Saturday in particular is when you see some of the heaviest of snow. Middle of the day now. Here we are around lunchtime. We've got heavy snow falling for us here in the Queen City. That goes through the day. 8 o'clock in the evening, we still have some heavy snow for us here in Cincinnati and down through northern Kentucky. We go to Sunday morning. Starts to back off a little bit for us now. By Sunday afternoon, the snow is all gone for us, but not before half a foot comes our way here in Cincinnati. Not often we get a half a foot snowstorm in Cincy, so be ready for this. I-75, I-70, I-74 are all going to be problem highways for you.
In places like maybe Washington, D.C., where they haven't seen much at all.
We've had, what, about 1.5 inches this year?
And they could be in line for several inches of snow. Now, the saving grace here is that event is going to occur on a weekend, and that's good news. Let's go ahead and play it out in time now. So Saturday, 7 a.m., okay? The storm is moving from west to east, and as it does so, to the north of the track is where we see that snowfall. But look at this area right in here. That's due to cold air coming down out of Canada along the east side of the Appalachians, and it actually is going to cause that wintry precipitation to fall as far south as places like Asheville. And unfortunately, we set up a condition here where we can actually produce some icing, and that's going to be a big concern. We'll get into that in a minute. But look at D.C. They continue to snow right in through Sunday evening. And oh, by the way, the system moves off the coast here, but there's an upper air feature back here that may bring some lingering snow right into the Monday morning rush hour. We're going to have to watch that pretty carefully. If you take a look at D.C., probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 inches of snow, and that is going to fall during the Sunday time frame. Hopefully by Monday morning, everything is going to be in good shape there. The snow will mostly have stopped, and you're going to be able to get to work. But down in these areas here, as much as 5 to 8 inches of snow. Mike, one of the ways we look at these snow events is the probability at which certain amounts of snow will fall. It's a very high probability we're going to see 2 inches all the way through Washington, D.C. If we go to higher totals, 4 inches, Washington's right on the line there. So we're going to range somewhere around 3 to 5 inches right now.
All right, Tom, thank you. All right, let's break it down for you. Greensboro, North Carolina. You've had a few clouds that have started to roll in here, but Winter Storm Gia could be producing ice here in the Triad. It's very possible. our forecast here could produce at times some really significant accumulations of ice. And ice can just sometimes be the worst. It is. Tom, you can oftentimes get traction in snow. That's next to impossible in ice.
Yeah, and they're no strangers to this setup here. This is one of the areas of the eastern U.S. where we see these happen time and time again. And this is close to a textbook setup. So there's the ice. And look at how it goes all the way down into parts of northeastern Georgia, right?
Sure.
So let's take a look at the setup here. High pressure to the north. Cold air comes around Quebec down through New England and down along the east side of the Appalachians here. Cold air is dense. It's down near the ground here. The system is now going to move up and it's going to bring moisture off the Atlantic and the Gulf here. That moisture is going to override the cold air. So there's the moisture. There's the cold air down to the shallow layer of the atmosphere. Snow starts up here, melts here, comes down as rain, hits those cold surfaces, Mike, and what we're going to end up with is freezing rain. And if that cold air is deep enough here, after it melts, it'll change into little balls of ice we call sleet. So it could be either one of the two. And again, this is the area that we're really concerned about.
And if you're driving here, the road the 81 just does this the whole time, 77 does this the whole time.
A lot of elevation to contend with, and this is my concern. It's probably going to be Saturday morning, or I should say Sunday morning is going to be the timing for this. So if we take a look at Greensboro Sunday morning, and again, the model shows us the atmosphere. Look at your temperatures and altitude. Snow, snow, snow. Boom, it melts, changes into rain, hits the surface at 31 degrees, and they end up getting that mess. And it's going to occur Sunday morning right in this time frame here where some people may be going to church services and other activities. So we're going to have to watch that carefully.
All right, Tom, thank you. We know that parts of North Carolina and Virginia could see some pretty significant ice. Roanoke, you could be a target as well. We've already picked up more than 15 inches of snow since the beginning of December. Joining us now from the National Weather Service office in Blacksburg, Virginia, meteorologist Dennis Slitker. Dennis, thanks for being with us. Tom was just kind of outlining the forecast for us here. Are there any areas in particular that you're more concerned about than others for ice?
First, thank you for inviting me to the program. And I want to focus the Saturday night into Sunday time period. We're going to be looking for any potential for ice or sleet to be kind of in our area of responsibility, kind of the southern sections, that south central part of Virginia heading south into North Carolina is the key spot for watching for that, where we have the cold air in place, as you mentioned, with that warmer moisture riding up over top of that.
And for your northern areas, that warm air may not get that far north, right? So it's probably going to be more of a snow setup for areas getting farther north into Virginia.
Exactly. The farther north you go, the less influence you'll have with that, what we call that warm nose aloft above that cold air. So picking like a dividing line, maybe taking a look at Route 460 across Virginia, areas north of that area, Roanoke and north into more northern parts of Virginia, looking more for snowfall as opposed to a mixture. But we still have to be watching how the guidance shapes up, because things can change, and we're going to keep an eye on that.
Dennis, how difficult does it become in a situation like this where there's a variety of precipitation types forecasted for? I know you coordinate a lot with emergency managers, with the road crews, DOT, that kind of thing. How difficult of a forecast does it become for them to figure out how to pre-treat or where to pre-treat and what kind of solutions or what kind of treatment to use?
Well, I think they each have their own methods that they use for their treating. I can't really speak for exactly what they do, but the biggest challenge would be the more sleet, more freezing rain we have, that will eat into snow amounts, which means there will be less to plow, but more ice to treat. So it's that balance between freezing rain falling on the snow, eating away at the snow, resulting in less totals of snow. So it's a very tricky combination that's still working out.
All right, Dennis, thanks so much for talking to us. Really appreciate it. Have a great evening. Appreciate the insight there. But again, the complexities of it, especially when you're introducing terrain into the forecast, boy, that gets really tough.
And these guys at these forecast offices, they're the experts in that area, and it's still a huge challenge for them.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, let's talk about specific timing then for a few places in the east, Tom, as we now push the storm system there. All right, we're talking about D.C., where we have hardly picked up any snow. So far this season, 1.4 inches. That's it. Average to date, we would have about 4. So we're running below. Now, the next storm that moves in, Gia, could produce some snow for us and maybe double what we've already picked up this year. When does it come in? Beginning middle of the day on Saturday, probably around lunchtime or thereafter. Snow for us in D.C. and Baltimore by the evening. That's through Saturday, and then Saturday overnight likely to continue with some of the snow here tapering off by the morning, or at least the heaviest of it is just a little bit south of you here. But even a place like Richmond heads up on the snow that's coming your way as well. Total accumulation here around 2 inches or so is rolling in for us here, maybe just enough to make everything white on the grass. I think the roads will be in pretty good shape, especially with temperatures that are going to hover right around 32. So it's not going to be extremely cold where you're going to be so cold that something like salt's not going to work on the roads. The timing for us is mostly Saturday, then going into Sunday. 1 to 3 inches of total forecast here. And again, with temperatures in the low 30s, I think that travel-wise, you should be in some pretty decent shape. If you're flying, you're likely going to be waiting a little bit as they de-ice airplanes. For a place like Roanoke, since December 1st, we picked up 15.2 inches of snow. Amazing, right? In an average winter, an entire season, we pick up just another inch more than we've had already. And through Sunday, another 3 to 5 inches is rolling in, so an overachieving winter so far. There's how much we have to go, another 5 to 6 inches around Roanoke and I-81. We do think at times it's going to be a really tough way to drive on. We take you then through the storm as it exits the East Coast. Could it provide maybe a little bit of snow in Boston? Well, it looks like at this point the snow, the heaviest of snow is going to stay south of you in Boston. Missed by another one, right? Now, a nice looking evening for you in Boston. It's cool today, and you've had a flake or two fly through Massachusetts. Nothing to write home about, that's for sure. Where's all the snow been so far this season? Not in Boston. Only 0.2 inches for the season. 0.2 inches for the season. That's it. Now, New York, we picked up about 6.5. A lot of that fell in November. If you want the snow, you got to go to interior New England, including Caribou. How about that? 75 inches of snow so far this season, but down in Boston, hardly anything. Boston, pretty significant snow deficit for us so far this year. Running a slight deficit in New York, but not much. A little bit of a deficit for us in Philly, but we're overachieving in Portland. We're up about 8 inches above normal for us here. Now, big game. Chargers in town taking on the Patriots Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Everything's gone, all right? Any storm system that we would have is completely gone, even though in Boston, I think you're going to get missed by and large by Gia. There's a look at that forecasted kickoff. Sunny. It's chilly, though, just 25 degrees with a cold northwest wind. All right, in Boston, there's our forecast, which remains mostly dry. 7 days of clouds and sun. You can handle that, right? And temperatures that aren't all that extreme by any stretch of the imagination here. Temperatures that don't move a whole lot here. Overnight lows that'll generally stay below freezing, but we're not talking single digits at all as we head toward, climatologically, the coldest part of the season. Boston, I think you'll probably handle that. We know at some point we're going to make up for all this nice weather, right? All right, this weekend's winter storm also fueling more rain across the south. When we come back, we're going to show you who's in for a washout and who's in the crosshairs for a chance of flooding. Plus, something happened today for the first time in 940 days. It happened in Oklahoma. Do you know what it is? We're going to tell you when we come back right here on Weather Underground. Welcome back to Weather Underground. You haven't seen much of this year in Cleveland. Lake effect snow. You know, we picked up about an inch, but areas to the east, as usual, picking up a lot more. 4 to 5 inches. Lake Geauga, Ashtabula County. But, you know, listen. In Cleveland, you're used to it, right? You've gotten away with a pretty tame winter so far. Could we make up for it with Winter Storm Gia? Well, Cleveland sits right up here and looks like the track of Winter Storm Gia is going to go just south of you. Won't spare you in Cincinnati, probably hit us in Indianapolis. St. Louis, we're right in the middle of it, and then back through Kansas City as well. So I-70, probably going to be the problem highway of all the highways for you here. Now tomorrow, initially starting off more or less as rain, DFW, Will Rogers, Wichita, these are all airports where we can have some problems in the roadway. I-35, that could be a problem for us here. We're going to have some issue here. St. Louis to Kansas City on I-70 tomorrow as we now go over to some more snow. Friday night in particular, your evening drive in St. Louis is a tough one. And then St. Louis to Indianapolis, Indianapolis to Columbus. No fun for us on Saturday. Even a place like Cincinnati, I think we could be in for some pretty significant snow. A 6-inch snowstorm in Cincinnati is a big deal, folks. And then going right across the mid-Atlantic. Look at the snow that comes for us here, not to mention the freezing rain that could nail us here. Danville, Virginia, down to the Triad here, maybe getting very close to Charlotte as well. Big bullseye of snow for us around St. Louis. Some pockets upwards of 8 to 12 inches are possible. I don't think that's widespread, but there'll be some pockets of that. But double-digit snows wouldn't be uncommon. Let's just put it that way. Here's a look at what the ice threat could be for us. High ice threat highlighted there in that dark purple color. That includes ice portions of I-70, 81, I-40, Hickory. We could be in the middle of that, as well as Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point. Be prepared for that because this is near impossible travel for us in these locations. So a lot going on for us with this storm. Please be aware. And we know it's not just snow that we're going to see with this storm, right? Cities across the south end up getting some pretty significant rain out of this.